Good morning, everybody. We'll get going here in 5 minutes at 9 a.m. sharp. All right, let's get going. It is Tuesday, August 9th, 9 a.m. Eastern. We're doing this live stream public here. This is what we do on a daily basis with the chart guys, but just opening it up so everybody can check it out. So what I do first is pre-market prep, give the rundown of where everything is shaping up pre-market. And this comes after doing my whiteboard preparation, which is essentially just ensuring that I look at everything in the market and write out some key levels for commodities and all our major sectors. Just a couple sentences that ensure that I look at everything on the morning and see where things stand. Also, we have our economic calendar here so we can make sure if there's anything that's going to impact price. And we certainly know tomorrow we've got CPI numbers that are going to be significant pre-market. So we're going to be looking for a reaction there. and keeping in mind that any swing positions that you take overnight tonight will be subject to a reaction from the CPI numbers. So going to go through my rundown here first, and then the market will open. And essentially, the first thing that I'm going to be looking at is observing. This is my Fidelity screen where I can keep an eye on a ton of individual names and sectors at the same time. But what I'm looking for first thing is who's breaking the low of yesterday. And there's going to be three different scenarios. Nobody breaks the low of yesterday, and I'm referring to the major sectors. So the major sectors that I'm watching: S&P 500, QQQ, XLV, XLF, and IWM as well. And those are the major sectors that have the most impact on the S&P 500. And it was very notable yesterday because all of those sectors hit the low of the day at the same time for the first time in weeks. And we know that's a bare indication that we want to be keeping an eye out for. Because when that happens, that shows us money is leaving the market as opposed to rotation. Oftentimes in the last 2 weeks, we've seen QQQ down and XLF up, and they trade inverse to each other. And so there's a little bit more rotation going on there. If one is down and the other is up, the S&P 500 holds on just fine. But if everything's dropping, that's when we see significant weakness. And if you look at the VIX, the days where the VIX has its biggest breakout days are days when everything is dropping together and hitting lows at the same time. So knowing that information, one of the major things that I'm watching for in the first 10-15 minutes of trading once the bell rings, who's breaking the low of yesterday and who is not. If every one of those major sectors that I just mentioned breaks the low of yesterday, that's the ideal start to the day for the bears. If none of them break support, that's the ideal start to the day for the bulls. If some break and some do not, then that's when things are a little bit less clear and require a bit more observation. So with where we stand in this moment, and we'll check back in 20-25 minutes, but in this moment, we have QQQ with a small gap down. We have XLF above its low of yesterday, but right there. XLV Healthcare is above its low of yesterday, but right there. And IWM, same thing, above its low, but right there. So with that, SPY is just above its low of yesterday. The NASDAQ is seeing relative weakness because of its impact from the semiconductor sector. NVDA had that news pre-market yesterday, pretty much bracing the market for a bearish earnings reaction. And so that led to a significant shift in the semiconductor sector. And that, again, it negatively impacts the NASDAQ much more than the S&P 500. And we know that both bulls and bears alike want the NASDAQ to be leading. And so if we look at our chart real quick, we've got, if we do QQQ divided by SPY to see relative strength and relative weakness, we'd know that when the market is its weakest, the NASDAQ is leading the way down. When the market is its strongest, the NASDAQ is leading the way up, as it has been on this bounce over the last 5 to 6 weeks. So if I'm a bear, I want to see the NASDAQ leading the way down, as it has been the last couple of days. I want that to remain consistent. I want the relationship between those two ETFs to shift from NASDAQ leading strong to NASDAQ starting to show that weakness. So for me personally, today I'm more keeping an eye on broader, bigger picture ETFs, and that's how I'm going to be trading. Essentially, at this point in time, because we got that little signal yesterday, I'm watching for positioning for weekly consolidation, because we know the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ have had a nice bounce, but we haven't seen weekly consolidation in about a month. And so we're getting signs in the short term here of bulls tiring a bit, just because these bull breaks are starting to lack follow through, which is the trademark of a rising wedge. And in the video yesterday after hours, highlighted the S&P 500 4-hour rising wedge that we were keeping an eye on, and that is looking to break bear. So just some indication of bulls tiring and wanting to attempt to position for some swing bearish positions for weekly consolidation, but doing so fairly conservatively. And that's essentially how I'm approaching today. And looking at the S&P 500, if I'm going to be more convinced as a bear, I need to see an hourly downtrend on SPY confirmed during regular trading hours. So yesterday, SPY dropped from the high of the day straight to the low of the day. And what I need to see, whether or not we hold the low of yesterday, I need to see today an hourly bounce result in a lower high compared to the high of yesterday, and then confirm an hourly downtrend. Because right now, the S&P 500, or I should say SPY has not confirmed an hourly downtrend in 9 days. And even right now, we're not confirming an hourly downtrend. So I have to see the bears do that for me to have continued increased probability for weekly consolidation. So I personally am going to be focusing on the NASDAQ and the biotech sector. And we'll look at the biotech sector in just a minute. But again, the question right out of the gate, can the bulls hold the low of yesterday? And if the answer is yes, I then patiently scout an hourly lower high to be the result of any morning bounce, knowing that we can bounce 1% all through the morning and still just form an hourly lower high compared to the high of yesterday. And if I see signs that the bears aren't proving anything to me and the bulls are regaining control, that just means I take a step back and be patient and trade less. It's not the kind of setup where I'm going to instantly then flip bullish. I know the direction that I'm looking. The trade's either going to come to me and present itself. I already grabbed a little bit of a bearish position in the NASDAQ yesterday once we got those major sectors at the low at the same time. But I will just be patient essentially and reassess the situation if the bears do not get any follow through today. And of course, CPI numbers tomorrow is another reason I'm not going to be doing anything too crazy. I will be waiting for a CPI reaction to then be looking for any kind of follow through, because I know that CPI reaction could pretty much erase whatever happens today. So the NASDAQ, we can see the daily consolidation is underway right now, and we're testing the low of Friday, which for QQQ, I'm looking at 318.39. And that's a fairly important level for me, just because we've had these little higher lows forming on the way up. And again, if that were to break, it just increases probabilities for me that weekly consolidation is going to be underway. And if we lose that 318, what was it, 318.39? If we lose that level, then daily EMA 12 then becomes key for me, because we're not going to see any weekly consolidation follow through if the weekly EMA 12 remains support. So that would have to be lost as well. The dollar is not doing what market bears want to see. A market bear wants to see the dollar breaking the high of last week and convincingly setting a weekly higher low off of EMA 12 support. And right now, we're not seeing that. We're seeing a weekly inside bar. And so this, again, if I'm just looking at all little pieces of the puzzle in the market, this would be a tally in favor of the bull column. The fact that the dollar is not confirming the weekly higher low is set yet. It still can, but at the moment, we're pulling back. We already broke the low of yesterday. And so keeping an eye on the dollar to see if it's able to break that resistance, 106.93 key level. Gold and silver are benefiting from that dollar weakness. Gold is just now hitting a higher high. So keeping the daily bounce going, creating more space for a weekly trend change attempt once we top out. We will need a weekly uptrend if we're going to have confidence in a longer term bottom being set. But for now, I'm just using daily EMA 12 as a guide, and we are not topping out on the bounce as long as daily EMA 12 is support. Silver, same deal, big day yesterday. Not doing a whole lot today. Gold is catching up a little bit, but certainly still strong. And again, daily EMA 12 is my guide there. The miners are trying to act as laggards to the metal bounce. GDX is going to test the high of yesterday first thing, attempting to be an hourly bull flag. So watching that short-term support level, we can say if 26.93 holds on GDX, the bulls keep their complete control. And of course, wanting to break 27.30. And after that, we look to 27.38 and 27.61 right behind it. So watching to see if the miners are able to keep the hourly uptrend and follow along with gold and silver with their strength. Oil is getting a daily bounce underway, and because of the bear break with zero follow through, so 88.23 support broke straight into a daily bounce, that means I scout a falling wedge. And there's a number of ways you could draw this downtrending support line. Might as well include this price action as well, so I'd have it like this. But I'm pretty much watching for a daily lower high here, because anything under 101.88 is a daily lower high for me. But again, this is a battle for the bulls to hold the monthly EMA 12 support to try and keep the longer term trend in oil pretty healthy overall. So watching to see if this daily falling wedge can break bull to start to shape up that monthly higher low. And in an ideal world, unless you're already in a bullish position, you want to see a rejection from resistance, a pullback, and either a trend change on the daily or another lower low with zero follow through into that eventual bull break. So this is now my visual guide on oil until it breaks one direction or the other. And following through on this bounce, we got the inventory report tomorrow. And as far as the energy sector is concerned, it is also seeing some daily bounce follow through, impacted more by oil than by what the S&P 500 is doing here pre-market. And so watching oil, knowing that, or I should say watching the energy sector, knowing that anything under 78.66 is just a daily lower high. But again, trying for that monthly higher low off EMA 12 for both oil and XLE. Natural gas has a little bit of a double bottom, 7656 and 7624. We have to see a 4-hour uptrend. We have not seen one since this daily consolidation started. Little visual guide for a resistance line. And again, it's another one with a bear break and zero follow through. So we can be keeping an eye out for a potential falling wedge to try and shape up here. And we need that 4-hour trend change to be confirmed to have confidence in a weekly higher low trying to shape up. Bitcoin weakness overnight. So big drop here with 15 and 5-minute RSI getting fairly beat up here. And I'm watching this 12-hour uptrend line, which is now back in play. And this resistance line as well. And again, with crypto, it's the same thing as the broader market. We're watching for weekly consolidation to shape up. And right now, Bitcoin is potentially giving us a daily lower high. So we failed to break 24.7. We failed by 2%. And now if we drop down and break 22.4, that's the most important level for me. If 22.4 breaks, weekly consolidation will clearly be underway. And that will be a notable momentum shift. So still maintaining 12-hour higher lows. But bulls are cautious, knowing that weekly lower highs are the most likely result of this bounce. And then we know weekly consolidation will eventually be inevitable. And the bulls will have to confirm weekly trend changes if this bounce is going to have bigger picture implications. But it's a scenario where if the S&P 500 bulls are able to bounce on the morning, then we'll be watching for the potential of Bitcoin to give us a 12-hour higher low. But first things first, we will just be looking for an hourly lower high to be the result of this bounce. And again, there's the ETF, the new ETF, BITI, which allows for bearish trading of Bitcoin. And there's many exchanges, or there's not many exchanges in the US that allow for shorting. So this is definitely one alternative. Not a ton of price history here, but if Bitcoin is going down, BITI is going up. So a little higher open today with the overnight weakness in crypto. So I'm keeping an eye on the biotech sector, as I mentioned, just because it's had a very significant bull move here on the daily and a little bit of an indecision candle yesterday, shaping up a potential hourly downtrend. So yesterday into the end of the day, I was able to say, if it wasn't 3:30 p.m. right now, I'd be scouting an hourly lower high right now in the biotech sector. And that is just because of the size of the pullback and the size of that bounce. And there's definitely added risk and reward for taking that trade overnight. And that's why I passed up on it. I would much rather take that trade during the day because, again, I can keep my stops nice and tight. But at this point, if we break 91.92, the hourly downtrend is confirmed and daily consolidation is underway. From that point, I will then be keeping an eye out for hourly oversold conditions because the biotech sector is going to be a back burner. And if you don't know what back burner is, then watch ChartGuys back burner video, search it on Google once you're done with this stream. But we're going to be watching for an hourly back burner bounce, first hourly oversold conditions coming after a daily breakout, looking for a daily higher low. So I have a short-term bear lean in the biotech sector, but once we head towards hourly oversold, I will then shift it towards a bull lean because we have so much space for that daily higher low to be the result of this consolidation. So that's definitely a major sector that I'm keeping an eye on today. As far as semiconductors are concerned, again, as long as semiconductors remain weak, then the NASDAQ is likely to remain weaker than the S&P 500, which means I personally would be focusing on QQQ if I'm looking bearish as opposed to SPY, just because there's a little bit of extra weakness there. But we can see SMH, and there's been a couple, there was another headline. I don't have the specifics off the top of my head here, but aside from NVDA yesterday, there was another SMH bearish headline for the semiconductor sector. Micron Technology says expectations, blah, 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 have declined. That's pretty much all you need to know. So further weakness there, potential small gap down open, further daily consolidation underway for SMH, and we will be watching for hourly lower highs on bounces. So again, even if the bulls do show up first thing this morning, wherever they show up, that for me in a lot of names will mean just patiently waiting for an hourly lower high. So NVDA is going to test its low of yesterday first thing. That's going to be key. I was watching yesterday first thing in the morning, and NVDA volatility was definitely having a notable impact on the NASDAQ and on QQQ. So if NVDA holds 172.42, I will be making note of that, and I'll be less aggressive as a bear in QQQ. And if that level breaks, then that shows some bear follow through. If 172.42 holds, the most important resistance level for me is 178.49. That's essentially the range that I'm keeping an eye on. So if I want to be a bear and we hold the low of yesterday first thing and we bounce multiple percent, I can still watch for a potential playoff of 178.49 resistance, because that resistance level is still multiple percent away from where we stand right now. So it's just another name that's going to test its low of yesterday first thing, as many individual names and sectors are going to do right away. Out of tech sector names, Amazon was a notable bear yesterday. And again, just a free fall from the high of the day. So we know that the next time we bounce, there's a lot of space for an hourly lower high to be set. So a patient bear is not looking to do anything on the morning. You know, the worst case scenario for a patient bear would just be we dump all morning, obviously, and they miss that move. But a patient bear that wants the trade to come to them is hoping for a morning bounce, even if we break the low of yesterday, as long as we don't see, all out bear control. They want to see that bounce to scout the hourly lower high to be the result of that next bounce. And generally speaking, the loss of the 5-minute uptrend is the first indication the hourly lower high is being set. So we watch those 5-minute trends for potential guides looking for that hourly lower high. But a patient bear on Amazon is saying, all right, I see the weakness, but I'm just going to wait for that next hourly bounce and look for the hourly lower high as the most likely result of that next bounce because of how much space was created for it yesterday. So keeping an eye out as to who our lead bears and lead bulls are in individual sectors as well. And one way to do that again is our comparison charts. Amazon divided by QQQ shows Amazon weakening comparative to QQQ. Yesterday, Apple divided by QQQ is tightening up here. If I'm a bear, I would love to see that break. Apple has been a lead bull over the 6-week bounce in the tech sector. So if it starts to become a lead bear, again, that would be another clue that would be very notable to me to gain confidence that weekly consolidation is coming. So I am watching this chart because this chart, again, showing the relative strength of Apple comparative to QQQ, we are just tightening up. And we know that when tightening ranges get real tight, they break and they get follow through. So I think this is going to be an important one to be watching over the next couple of weeks to see whether it breaks bull and Apple continues as a lead bull in the tech sector, or whether it breaks bear as a notable shift. Google has a resistance zone on the daily time frame it's worth paying attention to. We had this double top in the 119s and we broke it yesterday, but obviously that is not a convincing daily candle. So this right now for me is a resistance zone, and we're still rejecting from this resistance zone. And if we lose 116 support, we lose the little daily higher lows, and 116 is in play today. And so again, that's potentially shaping up for a rejection to remain range bound. And you can see Google has been range bound for months. This is the weekly time frame now, and 3 months essentially we've been bouncing around within this range. And so what bears are hoping for is a top fishing play off of this resistance zone, looking for weekly consolidation. It just is a nice clear level. And again, you want to give wiggle room because it's a zone and not just a specific price. But this is definitely something keeping an eye on as well. Google has been one of the weaker tech names to bounce over the last 6 weeks. because we have not convincingly broken the high of the last couple months. And again, most tech names did. You look at Apple, Google's struggling with the resistance from here that Apple blew through. As far as high risk, high reward names, we have a lot of volatility names that certainly saw a lot of volatility yesterday. We got these Reddit names that had the big morning pump and then gave a lot of that back. And so we're going to be watching for potential daily inside bars on those names. But again, if I want to be an aggressive bear, I'm hoping for a morning bounce, and I'm looking for an hourly lower high compared to 2690 on AMC. On GME, I'm looking for an hourly lower high, anything under 45.58 on any morning bounce. And I personally would be more interested in the Canadian cannabis names just because I'm more familiar with them. But watching for top fishing plays after the big pump days yesterday, we're seeing lower opens, and some sector peers had earnings and they dumped. So that's adding, not only do we have broader market weakness pre-market here, but we've got sector earnings reactions. Cron dumped big time on those earnings, so that's adding some downward pressure. So an aggressive bear is going to be watching for a potential top fish. If CGC cannot break 328, the high of yesterday first thing, then there's a potential top fish there. And TLRY, anything under 437 is just an hourly lower high. So that's a play where, these names see significant volatility in the first 10, 15 minutes. So if we were to get a little morning pop of a couple percent from the open, then there's that potential top fishing play with resistances from yesterday. And again, those are higher risk and higher reward. Generally, if I'm not live streaming and if I'm in my zone and I'm focused on one or two names and my only responsibility is to myself, then I'll be focusing more on the higher risk and reward volatility names. But when I'm live streaming and answering questions and doing all that, and I will be taking Chart Guys members' ticker requests at 10 a.m. a bit after the open. But that's when, I zoom out a little bit and I focus more on the broader market and the ETFs. And trading the leveraged ETFs definitely give me that volatility, but it's just a little bit more zoomed out. It's a little bit less, it requires a little bit less rapid pace, fast moving decisions. So that's generally how I approach the morning. So checking in on our sectors now, we got 7 minutes until the open. So where do we stand now? Who's breaking the low of yesterday and who is not? QQQ is still a small gap down open. SPY is still right at the low of yesterday. XLF and XLV still right above, and IWM all above the low of yesterday, but certainly close and in play. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going to write down what these lows of yesterday are, just so I can very easily reference them and know instantly who's breaking and who is holding. Because again, that's going to help us know whether it's a full bear control morning, whether bulls play significant defense and all hold support, or whether it's a bit of a mixed bag with some sectors weak, some sectors strong. And again, one of the things I'm trying to identify in the first 10 minutes is who is our lead bull sector and who is our lead bear sector, and then watching how that relationship shifts through the morning. Because often we'll see a lead bull present itself, and then if it starts to weaken and join team bear, that definitely shows us a shift in momentum, and vice versa. If we have three major sectors on team bull, but QQQ is weaker, and then QQQ gets a notable bounce and starts hitting the high of the day as well, then that shows us all sectors shifting towards the bulls. So you'll hear me say lead bull, lead bear a good bit once the bell rings as we identify that. Aggressive bulls are looking for bottom fishing plays. So XBI, 91.92 low of yesterday. Again, it's in play first thing. And so an aggressive bull is looking to potentially play off of that. But I personally am not looking to be an aggressive bull on the morning. If we do hold supports and bounce, again, I will be watching for hourly lower highs. And if the bears control the morning and see follow through, then I will also be patient because, again, I did grab some SQQQ yesterday due to pretty much the moment that all major sectors hit the low of the day. It's something I've been watching for weeks. And so as soon as that happened, I started exiting long exposure and started looking to grab some short exposure just to shift things a bit. because I have had a bull lean since FOMC. But that was, again, it's just a little red light that flashes in my brain saying, heads up, there's a little bit of a shift going on. And so now today for me is watching to see, does that flashing red light from yesterday, does it confirm? Does it follow through? Or was it a short-lived? And there have been times where it is a short-lived signal that does not follow through. But it is definitely the indication on our bearish days and in our shifts of momentum that pretty much is a requirement. All major sectors dropping to the low of the day at the same time. All right. Make sure you're logged in and good to go. And again, for the bears to win the morning with a nice strong start, we want to see all sectors break their lows of yesterday. If the biotech bulls do hold the low of yesterday first thing, I'll be keeping an eye out for a lower high compared to 94.18. That was our hourly lower high from the end of the day bounce yesterday. So it'll essentially, if the bulls can hold support, it'll be an hourly equilibrium tightening up. And we'll keep an eye on that dollar. Because as a bear, I would be much more comfortable if the dollar was seeing strength right now. Metal bulls are liking the fact that we saw stock market weakness yesterday and it was not impacting the metals. We often see the metals and the stock market correlated together. Certainly not on the way down for metals the last few weeks, but something I'm always keeping an eye out for as well. And if SPY does break the low of yesterday, 411.83, we're then going to go right to the low of pre-market, 411.45. Nope, 411.28. And that level would need to break as well if we're going to talk about follow-through. So QQQ lead bear, and we'll see if it remains that way. And it was the same thing yesterday. Yesterday, pre-market, because of the semiconductor NVDA dump, QQQ, we could easily see it was the lead bear before the bell even rang. So does it remain lead bear leading the way down? Or does it bounce notably and try to join Team Bull? Now you take a drink of water, take a couple deep breaths. Have those game plans laid out, know the direction that you're looking at, what names you're focusing on. And again, I rarely trade in the first 15 minutes unless there is a top fishing and bottom fishing play. That's really the only time that I'm going to be looking to trade right out of the gate. Sometimes if I'm looking to be aggressive and it's a big gap down into oversold conditions, we'll look for the bounce. But nothing wrong with waiting for the first 15 minutes to pass. There's plenty of trading opportunities that develop later in the morning. All depends on personal preference. XLF is a key one for me. Does XLF break its low of yesterday? Same as QQQ or not? So XLF right now is a good bit above its low of yesterday. IWM has broken its low of yesterday, so it's joining QQQ weakness. And XLF and XLV are the stronger sectors right now. So SPY holding the low of yesterday. XBI had a quick, I don't even know if that was legit. I guess it was just a very quick little flush down. So if we're going to see broader market weakness and bear follow through, XLV and XLF will have to weaken because right now they are captains of Team Bull as far as our sectors are concerned. So that will have to shift. QQQ again easily leading the way to the downside, not even close. Amazon is still a lead bear as well. Biotech bears are getting follow through. So daily consolidation is underway, hourly downtrend confirmed. But again, we need to see XLF right now is at its high of the day, while QQQ is at its low of the day, so they are a bit inverse to each other. Can XLF join Team Bear and break the low of yesterday? And XBI bears are loving that follow through. Hourly RSI on XBI is still 43, so we're not close to oversold. NVDA broke the low of yesterday. Apple right now is holding up as the strongest tech name still. And I can see that just because it's down 0.2% and peers are down 0.9% and 1%. So that's just how I visually quickly can compare individual names. But again, XLV and XLF are near their high of the day. So SPY bears aren't going to get a lot of follow through unless they weaken as well. But we got IWM and QQQ leading the way down. So growth is clearly seeing weakness as well. Checking in how Bitcoin is responding to the market open. Not doing much, fairly sideways the last hour in Bitcoin. So this is what I'm talking about, where right now we're watching, are our stronger sectors going to weaken or are our weaker sectors going to gain some strength? Because we've got a little tug of war going on right now. Growth in tech weak, financial sector and healthcare holding on for the bulls. XBI with a very quick 1% bounce back to the high of the day. Very volatile. Look at that V shape. So XBI is trying to join Team Bull on the bounce. XLF and XLV at their highs, so SPY bears aren't going to get follow through if that's what keeps shaping up on the morning. They are captains of Team Bull. CGC is trying to recover. We're watching that 328 high of yesterday resistance very closely. TLRY is a bit weaker than CGC yesterday. So that's where I'd be keeping an eye out for weakness. Amazon still remaining a lead tech bear, same as yesterday. Big time bounce in XBI. So we will be watching hourly resistance on XBI, 94.18. So right now, XBI is an hourly downtrend confirmed with zero follow through, which means a potential daily bull flag. We would need to see a 5-minute trend change confirmed to the bulls to have confidence. But again, it's a very notable 1.5% bounce very quickly. XLF still hitting higher highs. XLV, higher highs. Again, SPY tug of war stuck in the middle of its range, but not going to have confidence in bear follow through on the morning if these other sectors remain strong. And so now the question is, can QQQ join Team Bull? Can we get a big enough bounce to have any confidence? And right now, QQQ is definitely still weak. So you can see QQQ is the place for the bears to be focusing, with semiconductor weakness helping. It's down 0.9% while SPY is down 0.16%, so a very big difference. Aggressive biotech bulls will be watching for a 2-minute higher low to be the result of next consolidation. So the more these sectors hold on strong, the more I'm going to patiently be waiting to scout hourly lower highs later in the morning or in the afternoon. If they start to weaken, can look to them play off the high of today's resistance. But again, as long as the relative weakness remains in QQQ, that's where I'm going to be focused. TLRY is weakening comparative to CGC again. QQQ is still at the low of the day, so we're not seeing much bounce there at all. Tesla into 5-minute oversold conditions, so it's breaking a couple short-term supports from the last 2 days. 856.63 just broke. So Tesla's weekly consolidation is now officially underway. And the more individual names that see weekly consolidation underway, the more notable it'll be. XLF still at the high of the day. So again, clear Team Bull Captain. QQQ, clear Team Bear Captain. And SPY stuck in the middle. So XBI is looking for a 2-minute higher low due to the size of that bounce. And trying to very quickly be set. High of the day resistance there is 92.81. CGC is maintaining hourly support. Hourly support from yesterday was 307. Wasn't a very convincing hourly support level established, but a quick little hourly bull flag at 307, and we held that at the low of the day. QQQ hourly RSI, fairly close to oversold. It's at the 34s. So we'll be keeping an eye on that if the weakness continues. Hourly oversold conditions are not far away. And I always compare to the futures chart. Oftentimes they have some slight differences. So the NASDAQ futures hourly RSI is oversold right now. It's just getting there. Another thing I'll be watching for that will show me rotation is if QQQ gets a 5-minute bounce going, does that lead to financial sector 5-minute consolidation at the same time? So we'll be watching to see how strong that inverse relationship between the two is, because it's certainly fairly strong so far in the morning. So this is our scenario out of 3 scenarios that we could have seen with our sectors to start the day. This is our mixed bag scenario with some breaking supports, others holding. So again, we're not going to look for notable bear follow through as long as that tug of war is going on. I should say notable bear follow through for the market as a whole. So QQQ 5-minute bounce underway, heading back towards the high of the day, trying to join Team Bull. Biotech sector high of the day, so 2-minute trend change confirming. Bounce follow through. And with the QQQ bounce, we are not seeing the financial sector pulling back at the moment, which favors SPY bulls. So we're watching that QQQ high of the day closely. Again, it's still Apple, easily the strongest tech name on my screen. Trying to be the first to go green if we get there. XBI over the last month has often seen morning dumps lead to significant bounces. It's certainly a fairly common pattern. And so we're going to be watching the next couple days. Is this a daily bull flag? Pretty much the burden of proof is on the bears right now to prove to us that the biotech sector is not a daily bull flag. On any NVDA bounce, key resistance is 178.49 from the end of yesterday. It did break the low of yesterday, but no follow through at the moment. Let's see if that's shaping up a falling wedge. Not a good one. I'm drawing on my other screen, but not notable. So the big question here in the short term, can QQQ hit a new high of the day and notably shift to Team Bull? It's trying, as SPY is testing the high of the day as well. XLF still at the high. Biotech sector at this point will have to confirm a 5-minute trend change, but tons of space for the 5-minute higher low to be the result of next consolidation. IWM and QQQ are very similar, both near the high of the day, but not breaking at the moment. It's a fairly slow market open right now, the first 15 minutes. And again, it's because of that tug of war action, in my opinion. It's just this little pause to see, all right, which, we're fairly even on this tug of war. Which side is going to start gaining ground? Tesla has a lot of space for a 5-minute lower high compared to the high of the day. Right now, it's a potential 5-minute bear flag. So it's showing me a little bit of relative weakness compared to QQQ. But obviously, if QQQ bounces and gets a new high of the day, that's going to help Tesla bounce back towards its high of the day. There's just more space for a 5-minute lower high on Tesla than there is on QQQ. So IWM and QQQ trying to make it back to the high of the day. Aggressive bears are looking for a top fish off high of the day resistance. But I don't have a ton of confidence in that trade. But it's low risk. SPY right now is pretty much dead center in the middle of its range on the morning. QQQ potentially setting a 5-minute lower high. Bears would love a new low of the day in QQQ and IWM. Let's start a ticker request thread from Chart Guys members while we wait for this tug of war to resolve itself a little bit more clearly. Starting with S. So S is doing the same thing as QQQ on the 5-minute time frame to start the morning. S on the daily time frame broke $28 yesterday with zero follow through. Daily higher lows are the most important factor here. And our last daily higher low is 25.33. So if we lose 25.33, That would be yet another rejection. Look at the battle with weekly EMA 12 for the entire year. Just dozens of rejections. And so if we lose little daily higher lows, this week will be another rejection from that weekly EMA 12. So it's all about 25.33 as far as the daily perspective. Next time we bounce, I would consider anything under 28.48 high of yesterday as an hourly lower high to be the result of that bounce. Please use tickers rather than company names to make my life easy. DAL. Testing the low of yesterday, which did break by 4 pennies already. So daily consolidation is underway there. Anything above 32.78 would keep the little daily higher lows going. We did confirm the hourly downtrend. So we're in an hourly downtrend, 5-minute downtrend. And it's just a question of can bulls maintain the daily uptrend by holding 32.78. They would have to regain the hourly trend in their favor for a new daily higher low to be set above that level. BJ, daily consolidation underway as well. Again, another name where the bull breaks are just lacking follow through and it's getting a rising wedge type feel to it. I'd be watching this uptrending support. If we hold daily support of 68.51, we prevent from a rising wedge bear break. But if we lose that daily higher low, we have the rising wedge bear break into weekly consolidation. A lot of resistance, 71 to 74, you're up at the all-time high. So bulls keep control if 68.51 can hold, but if it breaks, it's a more notable rejection from that resistance zone. QQQ is testing the low of the day right now, 317.20. So 5-minute downtrend will be confirmed if we see the new low of the day here. XLF has 5-minute consolidation underway. IWM right at its low. IWM is slightly weaker than QQQ, at least on the 5-minute since the open. So 5-minute downtrend confirmed on IWM. QQQ trying to do the same here. So that's a good sign for the bears. And now the bears would love to see XLF, our lead bull sector, give back 50% plus retracement of this morning bull move. XBI has 5-minute consolidation under just starting. XBI has a lot of space for a 5-minute higher low to be the result of this next consolidation. So nice 5-minute downtrend as our short-term guide. Keeping an eye on the NASDAQ hourly RSI, but as long as 5-minute lower highs keep forming, bears keep full short-term control. Healthcare sector is close to joining Team Bear. If we see a new low of the day, 131.81. PINS. Daily tight range broke bull yesterday over one level, but rejected with a double top at 23.77. Another name where these little higher lows are what matter to us. So 22.17 key level holding initially, but we will just be looking for anything under 23.70 to be an hourly lower high as a result of this bounce. Bulls would need a big enough hourly bounce in terms of retracement to try and set up the trend change to keep the daily higher lows going. Coin's got a nice tightening 4-hour range. I like it better on the daily. So we got our high. The low of the initial drop is 86.52. Lower high yesterday. And it's all about 86.52. Looks like we've got earnings after hours So that's pretty much going to dictate the direction this tightening range breaks. If it is a bearish reaction to earnings, the daily, I would say actually weekly consolidation will be shaping up. And if it's a bullish reaction to earnings, then the daily higher lows remain. QQQ bears getting some follow through on the new low of the day. NVDA also at its lows, so semiconductors, growth names, and tech definitely leading the way down. Let's check in now on the levels of support for QQQ. Along with hourly oversold conditions, we're testing 315.99 as a level, and then daily EMA 12 is the next level from there. But this is some decent follow through now for the S&P 500 4-hour rising wedge. And SPY bears would love to see a break of 409.60. That's our little higher low on SPY. So we're watching that level as well. And that 409.60 level is not going to come into play on SPY unless XLF starts to weaken. Canadian cannabis hitting fresh lows of the day, down notably from the bull move yesterday. So broader market weakness certainly impacting the sector. So XBI and XLF are going to be looking for 5-minute higher lows, but lots of 5-minute downtrends out there as well. And bears are definitely winning that initial morning tug of war. FCEL. Daily consolidation underway. It's similar to XBI. It looks like a potential daily bull flag due to the magnitude of the bounce from that initial bear morning. We're going to look for a 5-minute higher low. Hourly resistance is 449. But looking around at the market, that's pretty much the ideal start to the day. Quick 5% plus bounce from the low of the morning. So it's another name like XBI. The burden is on bears to prove to us that that is not a daily bull flag. ATAI daily consolidation underway after the big bear reversal candle yesterday. Anything above 399 is a daily higher low. Earnings are going to dictate whether the weekly trend change follows through or not. If it's a bearish reaction to earnings, a monthly bear flag will be possible because it'll be a weekly uptrend with zero follow through. And of course, if it's a bullish reaction to earnings, that's going to potentially help that weekly trend change follow through. And those earnings are next week. Bitcoin with a bear break responding to the broader market weakness. So a lot of red out there in the crypto space today. Again, keeping an eye out for the potential of weekly consolidation. Roku is currently a daily inside bar. So 79.11 is key support. And if we hold 79.11, we'll have a very wide hourly range where we will be scouting an hourly lower high to be the result of that next bounce. But we are currently approaching 79.11. We would be pretty oversold on the 5 and 15 minute time frame if we were to test that level from here. But keeping an eye out for daily consolidation to shape up as we never changed the daily trend bullish on that bounce over the last week and a half. Amazon lead bear yesterday, lead bear today. Next support is 136.05. And again, there's a lot of space for an hourly lower high next bounce. We got space for a 15-minute lower high. We're testing the low of the day right now and just broke it. So space for hourly and 15-minute lower highs to be the result of the next bounce. Definitely lead bear the last 2 days. TMUS holding strong on the daily chart overall. I'd say if daily EMA 12 is support, the bulls have short-term control. Hourly is still an uptrend. 143.95. We actually broke that level first thing this morning. But 5-minute uptrend just confirmed. We'll see if the bulls can get a new high of the day. Clearly holding on stronger than most places. So bulls just want to keep daily EMA 12 as support. XLF weakening a bit. Bears would love to see it, again, head back towards the low of the day. This is definitely one of the biggest divergences between QQQ and SPY in a while. They often are doing very similar things, but the fact that QQQ is down almost 3 times percentage-wise what SPY is down is notable. So if I'm an aggressive bull looking for an XBI 5-minute higher low, I'm also watching QQQ because I want to see QQQ put in a low of the day into a 5-minute bounce to try and help the biotech sector bulls find that 5-minute higher low. So I know they're not directly correlated and they can be doing different things, but essentially that would mean if QQQ is bouncing, then SPY is likely bouncing on the 5-minute, and that can only help the biotech bulls try and find that 5-minute higher low. XBI has retraced close to 50% at this point. Any more, and we'll be watching for the possibility of a 5-minute lower high to be the result of the next bounce. We're shaping up for a potential 5-minute equilibrium. AMC, so bear follow through, daily consolidation underway. There's a gap fill at 22.77, which we're about to hit. Got a little 5-minute downtrend to be watching in the short term. The gap just filled. And next support level, looking towards extended hours, 21.51. Already did Amazon, Tesla. So Tesla 5-minute bear flag confirmed. Not a whole lot of follow through, but again, now we've got a clear 5-minute lower high pattern as our guide. And we are seeing weekly consolidation underway. And lots of space for an hourly lower high to be the result of the next bounce. So for names that look like this, QQQ being one of them, just going to keep it simple, and the 5-minute lower highs are our guide on the morning. QQQ trying to shape up a 5-minute bounce at the moment. TLRY is a 5-minute stair step from the open. We'll be looking for a 5-minute lower high to be the result of the next bounce there. HRB. So this is the kind of chart where it's in blue sky breakout and riding daily EMA 12. So I have to see signs of weakness Can't just scale in bearish. So there's a potential top fish at 40.60. Actually, we got earnings. Earnings are after hours. So that's going to throw any of my short-term analysis out the window. But if earnings were not a factor, it would be, again, the only way I would try to play counter trend on a chart that looks like this is if there is a very low risk top fish, which we did have this morning with the inability to break the high of yesterday first thing. Bears would need a new low of today for a convincing rejection from that resistance. And IO all bear to start the morning. 5-minute downtrend will be our guide. Weekly lower high is looking set. And we will confirm a weekly downtrend if 1859 breaks. Little 4-hour head and shoulders confirming. Short-term support first is 1943, just broke that, so it's all about 1859 over the next few days. ETH, rising wedge. There's a bunch of rising wedges in crypto. Again, just bull break with no follow-through, and now 12 hours support. 1668 is about to be tested to potentially lose the 12-hour uptrend. And daily EMA 12 support is right there as well. Hourly oversold conditions, but definitely being impacted by broader market weakness to start the morning. And even if we hold 12-hour support or break it with no follow-through, we then have to be cautious of a 12-hour head and shoulders shaping up. CMG still all bull. Pretty much held the low of yesterday. Broke it by $1, but $1 means nothing on a $1,600 stock. And we headed to the higher high. 1645 is the next clear resistance level. Bulls keeping short-term control. AMD daily support is 93.62. Again, the notable weakness in the semiconductors standing out. Clear hourly downtrend, and we are in hourly oversold conditions. And this is another name where even if we hold 98.77 support initially, we will be watching for the potential of a daily head and shoulders. But bears have full control of the hourly at the moment. And NVDA does not have a bottom either. Hitting its fresh lows. Canadian cannabis keeping up that steady sell-off all morning. XLF 5-minute higher low is set. So if we're going to see our lead bull sector weaken at all, we must break 33.78. That's now our short-term benchmark. XBI does have space for a potential 5-minute lower high next bounce due to the retracement on this pullback. So aggressive bears are going to be watching for a 5-minute lower high on XBI next bounce. CVNA daily consolidation underway. We're keeping an eye out for first hourly oversold conditions. Hourly lower high resistance, 46.69. And we don't have a ton of support in this area due to the big bull move up. So really just looking at psychological levels. 41, 40. We will be looking for a daily higher low to be the result of this pullback, but an hourly trend change back to the bulls will need to shape up. Hood has a tightening range. Key support is 994. So we got the high, low, lower, high, all about 994 in the short term. If we break 994, we confirm a daily downtrend. And bulls would need to regain an hourly trend in their favor, holding 994 to try and remain within this tightening daily range. So QQQ will be scouting a 5-minute lower high to be the result of the next bounce, anything under 318.58. XLF is approaching the high of the day. If it confirms that 5-minute higher low and higher high, it will remain lead bull. Netflix and Amazon and NVDA and NIO are our weakest names. Apple's still holding on to relative strength. Again, you look at QQQ right now where we're still weak on the 5-minute. Sweetie Pants is excited and scared of turkey. So QQQ is bouncing off the low of the day, and you compare that to Apple, and Apple has not hit a new low of the day yet. So again, that's just a way to visualize clear bull correlation still intact between Apple and QQQ. PANL earnings are after hours. And earnings are either going to dictate daily uptrend continuation and higher highs, or a confirmed daily downtrend if we have a bearish reaction and break 459 support. This is a fairly weak weekly bounce. It is a weekly bear flag at the moment. So if we get a bull reaction to earnings after hours, probabilities of a weekly bear flag will decrease significantly. And if it's a bear reaction, then the probabilities will increase significantly. So I'm keeping an eye out for an LABD entry on a biotech sector 5-minute lower high. I would like for it to align with a QQQ 5-minute lower high shaping up. And again, the S&P 500 is the futures chart. If we keep these little daily higher lows going, these bulls keep control. So aware of that as well. And again, that's that SPY level of 409.60. So if we're going to be heading towards weekly consolidation, 409.60 needs to break on SPY. I might have just missed my biotech entry. If XBI confirms this quick little 5-minute bear flag, I'll then zoom out to the 15-minute, watching the low of the day. And if we get a 15-minute higher low compared to the low of the day, then there's tons of space for a 15-minute lower high to be the result of the next bounce. Same thing for QQQ. A lot of space for a 15-minute lower high. It's just an example where if I'm not live streaming, I'm literally just staring at that chart with my order filled out, ready to click a button, versus finding things to talk about. So SPY is scouting a 5-minute lower high. XLF currently a double top at the high of the day. It'll only be meaningful if we lose 5-minute higher lows. Right now it is only XLF on Team Bull as far as sectors are concerned. XLV is pretty much flat, not really joining either side, which happens often. But we know SPY bears aren't going to see notable follow through on the day in terms of, negative 1%, 2% kind of day. Doesn't happen unless all of our major sectors are dropping together. New high on XLF. So XLF 5-minute uptrend is our guide. And QQQ 5-minute downtrend is our guide. So I'm going to start to shift to 15-minute time frames here soon, and that's how I go through the day. If I'm really zoomed in and focused on trading the first 15, 20 minutes, I'll be on the 1 and 2 minute time frame. Then I zoom out to the 5-minute, and once about 45 minutes has gone through the day, it depends on the day, obviously. Like right now, QQQ 5-minute time frame is giving me plenty of clarity. I don't need to go anywhere else. But generally now is at the time in the morning when I then start to zoom out a bit more to 15-minute charts. Because that helps me as a reminder, because if I'm on the XBI 5-minute chart, that 5-minute lower high and lower low, zooming out to the 15-minute just reminds me, well, it's possible that that 5-minute lower high and lower low lacks follow through, and we set a 15-minute higher low and tighten on the longer term time frame. All right, we got 10 minutes left in the stream. I'm now reading you YouTubers. If you've got any questions, ideally not specific charts, but I'd be looking for a crypto bounce here before CPI. But again, we will just be looking for hourly lower highs. And we got space for 4-hour lower highs. So we're playing the zoom out game in crypto. We're going to scout hourly lower highs. When we change the hourly trend to bulls, we're going to scout 4-hour lower highs. If you're on a swing trade perspective, I like the 12-hour time frame for clarity on a lot of individual names. And so same thing on Bitcoin. If we set the low of the day here, that's a big if. A lot of proving to be done, but there's a 12-hour head and shoulders that we got to be keeping an eye on and cautious of. And a lot of these alts are already losing the 12-hour uptrend, some of them confirming 12-hour downtrends. Any tips for lighting and where am I looking here? Tips to prevent tiredness after staring at the screen for hours. So ideally, you're using the different apps or whatever that they have to try and eliminate that bright blue light in your face. I've used the glasses before. On Amazon you can get a $8 or $10 pair of blue light glasses. And I do believe that helped. There was a time when I was putting in more screen time and I was getting headaches. And whether it was placebo or real, it definitely helped. So that's an easy fix. You can also buy little screens to put on top of your monitors if you don't want to wear the glasses that do it. And of course, ideally having windows nearby. For me, I will not do this game unless there's windows nearby. I have to be able to, like right now as I'm talking, I'm looking at a 9-foot wild lettuce plant. Like that is essential for me to be able to just constantly, I see a butterfly fluttering around. Like that's very important for me to be able to just constantly shifting my vision. There's some male turkeys lying on the hill. I know obviously not everybody can have access to windows, but if you are establishing a place where you trade, ideally windows are key. When I'm talking about the previous low of the day, I do mean regular trading hours. Unless I'm specifying extended hours, it's always regular trading hours. Volatility strategies are of no interest to me. I have determined over the years that if I want to be a volatility trader, that has to be all that I do. Like that has to be my main focus. The people that I know that do it well, that is what they do. And I don't want to do that. So I don't think that you can have that be, one of the things that you do. I can't be a good volatility trader and keep an eye on the cannabis and psychedelic sectors and keep trading the biotech sector daily in both directions. If 5-minute uptrends shape up, would I buy? I have no interest in going long today, especially heading into the CPI numbers. I am scouting weekly consolidation mode right now. And if that means I miss some upside, then I just zoom out and wait for hourly lower highs and look to short hourly lower highs because I know on a ton of individual names, the next hourly bounce that we see, the most likely scenario will be hourly lower highs to be a result of that bounce. As far as these live stream goes, do I often give a play-by-play? So I do this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The same thing. And then Dinsey does it Thursday and Jason does it Friday. And then we have multiple streams throughout the day. We have a fireside chat on a Zoom call, which is more interactive. So there are some days where we'll have live streams and then we have the afternoon stream from 3:15 to close. So there are some days where we'll have 3 to 4 hours of live streaming stuff. But pretty much every day there's at least 3 separate streams. What time frame would I watch if looking for a 12-hour lower high? In crypto, I'd use the hourly. The hourly can be the 12-hour. The 4-hour is more along the lines of the daily. I think the CPI numbers are going to be lower, and I think the market has been pricing that in over the last few weeks. QQQ right now is a potential 5-minute bear flag. XBI bear is very impressive to completely take back that very significant bounce. That's a good sign for bears as far as daily consolidation is concerned. Still holding the low of the day, but just the fact that we gave it all back is definitely notable. Netflix is in a clear 5-minute downtrend like QQQ and most other names, so we're just looking for a 5-minute lower high to be the result of this current bounce. If we change 5-minute trends to bulls, again, we zoom out and look for hourly lower highs. So if bulls are able to shift short-term momentum from here, either we zoom out to the 15-minute or the hourly, whichever you find more clear. So for me, just as an example, looking at QQQ here. So if QQQ bulls are able to negate this 5-minute bear flag and keep this bounce going, I then go to the 15-minute time frame, knowing that anything under the high of the day is a 15-minute lower high, keeping an eye on EMA 12 resistance, and watching the 2-minute. Because the 2-minute uptrend being lost is often the indication that a 15-minute lower high is being set. And again, it's important to be watching all these different time frames and how they interact with each other. The 2-minute for the 15-minute, the 5-minute for the hourly for the daily, as far as stocks are concerned. I actually just recorded that section of the entries and exits course redo that we're doing yesterday. But if you already have the entries and exits course, I shouldn't say anything because it's going to be months away, but before the end of the year, you'll get a new and improved, much better version. Definitely updating it after some years, and I'm much better a trader than I was when I made it. GME. So still a clear little 5-minute downtrend here. We just set a new resistance level at 41.32. Same thing, if we break the 5-minute lower highs, I zoom out and scout a 15-minute lower high compared to the high of the day. If this current new low of the day lacks follow through, it'll be a potential 2-minute falling wedge. So let's just draw that real quick. GME. So I'd be keeping an eye on that. If this breaks bull, that tells me zoom out and scout a 15-minute lower high. So bears are keeping nice control in the short term. But again, the thing that is keeping me from an aggressive bear day is XLF strength. XLV is trying to join Team Bear. We did break a new low of today, have not broken the low of yesterday yet. But again, SPY right now is down 0.34%, so it's certainly not a very weak day out there. It's the NASDAQ that has the weakness specifically. Yeah, my trading view drawing just disappeared. Somebody asking if that's happening. And it's back. But it did disappear when I didn't make it. So something's going on with trading view. Do I have one simple strategy for a beginner? Learn the equilibrium pattern. Higher lows and lower highs, constricting ranges. It's the most common pattern in stocks and trading. You can play within the equilibrium once you get real comfortable with it. You can play the breaks of the equilibrium once they get real tight. But as far as determining what the most likely scenario is, the equilibrium very often guides that for me. Do I consider a bear flag breaking bull the start of an uptrend? I consider it a shift in momentum, and I know that it's an uptrend on some time frame. So QQQ here, if this 5-minute bear flag negates, it's because there's a 2-minute uptrend being established, which again has me zoom out and scout the 15-minute lower high. What do I think about the safe implications on the cannabis sector? Honestly, I'm skeptical. And I'm going to try and stay open-minded, but retail is not going to, I mean, people that care about the cannabis sector that already have bags, they're going to care about it. But is that the headline that's going to get retail that's not in the sector into the sector? I think, I mean, maybe if it gets institutions in, that would be notable, but I don't think it's the sexy headline that everybody that's already involved in the sector thinks that it is. But I'll be open-minded and be open to volume and price action proving me wrong, but I think it's being overplayed personally in terms of the impact it will have on the sector. Do I consider rising wedges or falling wedges as a form of an equilibrium? No, but they happen within it. So if I'm looking at a daily equilibrium and I'm scouting a daily lower high, an hourly rising wedge can shape up that daily lower high. So if I'm determining the most likely scenario for that lower high and then a bearish pattern develops on a shorter term time frame, that increases the probability for me that that lower high is shaping up. At what level will I be interested in an oversold bounce in the biotech sector? I want XBI to hit hourly oversold. So we're at hourly RSI 41 right now. Need another solid leg down. And probably not going to happen today unless things get real ugly. But I don't expect it to happen today. Don't have time to go over the equilibriums pattern. We've got a 35-minute educational video on our website. I think it's private. I think that's one of it. We have a bunch of private videos, a bunch of public videos. It's hard for me to remember which is which sometimes. I believe that's a private one. I'll see what I can dig up for public videos that we have talking about equilibriums. All right. I appreciate you all tuning in. Check out chartguys.com if you're interested in more. Have a great rest of your day. Let's just do one more quick update here with where we stand. So bears in short-term control, any bounces, so now QQQ has a 2-minute uptrend. So anything under the high of the day is a 15-minute lower high. And it's definitely a specialized kind of day because when all of our sectors are doing the same thing, you can just be in anything and it's going in that direction. But clearly today there are names much weaker than in other places as XLF is still near its high of the day. And I don't think SPY bears are going to get much follow through as long as XLF stays strong. So that keeps me less aggressive as a bear today. But I know that, for example, XBI, I will be scouting the 15-minute lower high as a result of the next bounce patiently. And I'll be watching for SPY to give us an hourly lower high as the result of the next bounce. But again, with CPI numbers tomorrow morning, definitely going to remain pretty patient overall. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the likes and shares and support and all that stuff. And we will see you soon. Going back to the chat room.